Great. So we are all here today, hopefully, to talk about your state annual report data and all the wonderful things we can do with it. If you and I have not met yet, I am Maria Bernier, the State Data Coordinator. My pronouns are she and her, and I obviously wear a lot of hats, as many people do, but today we're here to talk about data and how you can use it now during budget season and pretty much anytime. So I always like to start these webinars by reminding people about the difference between our state annual report and your own library's reporting systems and procedures and what you track for your library, which can be quite different from what we keep track of in the state annual report. Because in our state report, I'm gathering data that I'm going to submit to the Institute of Museum and Library Services for their public library survey, which is a nationwide survey of all of the public libraries in the 50 states, plus several different territories. And we all need to be working with the same questions to try to get some commonalities across the entire country. So a lot of the questions that I ask you come from IMLS, and I can't mess with them, right? I have to be consistent with what everybody else is asking in the other states. So those are the questions, and we're stuck with those. But I do also add a few questions along the way. You have probably noticed those this year for Connecticut purposes. And I do have leeway in what we ask there and what we don't ask. So those are some options. But really what we want to talk about today are some charts that are already made and available to you, for you, of Connecticut specific library data that you can use for local advocacy. So whether it's budget season or whether you're going to your supervisor to advocate for a larger budget for your department or for a raise or however you want to use this data, it's really up to you. And just as a plug and a reminder, it's always nice to just tell people good news for no reason, right? So if you're going through this data and you see something that looks like a really great story, just tell people, right? And build up their happiness so that when you do go to them for money, they're inclined in your favor. That's always a handy thing to do. So we're going to spend a lot of time today on a specific LibGuide. And I think I am sending you the link for this at about 4 o'clock today, so you don't have to write it down. But we're going to spend a lot of time online. And we're going to take a look at the latest annual data that everybody sent me for fiscal year 2021. And when I gather all of those annual reports from individual libraries, I compile that into one enormous spreadsheet that we call the Statistical Profile. So we're going to start with that because that's a real gold mine. And then we will also take a look at other things. Some chart makers that are there, the fact flyers, and also on this LibGuide is where you will find the annual report form when you need to do it next year, as well as instructions and definitions and all that kind of thing. So anything really related to public library statistics is pulled together, collated together on this one LibGuide. And I think we're just going to hop out and go there right now. All right. So we should be looking at a LibGuide page, and I'm going to count on you guys to put into the chat if you're not seeing what I'm describing. So please use that chat box actively to let me know that I'm being a dodo head here. Again, ask your questions in the chat. If you find that the chat is going to be a little too cumbersome and you just want to turn on your mic and ask a question, you can certainly do that too, and I will try to listen for you. But this is our main LibGuide page. So when we talk about our DLD homepage or our LibGuides, this is really what we're talking about. And there are a couple of ways that you can find the statistic page. It's under services, and most of our core services in DLD are linked under this services menu in the top navigation menu. And you can see it's right here in alphabetical order, right under library statistics. So that's one option for finding it. And another is over here, library statistics. This area in the top left corner has, again, quick and easy links to a lot of our top pages, core services. So this is a great way to find it. You can just click on library statistics there. Or if you end up on a LibGuide page and you can't find anything and you're really frustrated, just use this search box right up here in the top right corner. You can search here. Let's try annual report, if I can spell it right. And when I pop that in, here I can see here's the annual report page on our statistics LibGuide. So that's a couple of different ways you can find it if you don't have the specific URL to get there. Now, many of you may be familiar with LibGuides, but if you're not, let's just take a quick scan through here. These tabs up at the top, these little green tabs that change to blue, those are some sort of high-level tabs. And then within boxes on a page, you can have these additional tabs. So because we're librarians, right, we have inundated you with information. There is like an entire reference book in this LibGuide, and that's why it is dense and meaty and detailed, and there's tab upon tab. So you do have to dig into it, play with it, right? But it's a website. You're not going to break it. Okay, so like, don't worry about clicking on stuff. You just click away and open and see what's what, and navigate to things. And always remember that search box if you can't find what you're looking for. So our top level tabs here, Statistical Profile. We're going to spend some time here today. The annual report tab that you have probably been familiar with. That's where you've been downloading your annual report form, the instructions, finding information about programs, about the new questions. It's all under this annual report tab right there. Can you see this? Let me blow that up a little bit. Maybe that's a little bit better as we're looking. All right. Then this chart and report creators tab right here. Again, goldmine. We're going to spend some time in there today. Finding stats on the web. Those are some links to other statistical sources like the 2020 census, the Data Haven reports, the CT data reports, really good stuff there that will help support your advocacy efforts as well as grant applications. And then this tab for flyers and resources for advocacy. And we'll end there just taking a look at some of the flyers that are available to you pre-made to help you tell your story. So let's start here with the statistical profile. Let me scroll up just a little bit. This very first tab is where the most recent profile always lives. And you can see, released the official version a couple of weeks ago. Finally got all the data collated and cleaned up and smushed together and launched in an enormous spreadsheet, which is right here, the statistical profile. A couple other resources here, how to make the most of it. There's some interesting tips in there. This right here, the PDF is just a PDF version of the entire Excel spreadsheet, and it's 433 pages. I recommend you avoid that and just open the spreadsheet. Even if you're scared of Excel, it's going to be a lot more efficient for you. Right here, the statewide data, the statewide statistical charts. This is just a PDF export of information that is in the profile. It's here and handy and available to you. And then as we scroll down, there's some long-term data here, which we're going to get to. I keep saying that. So let's actually dive in and open up this Excel sheet. Going to open it. Of course, every time you click and open it, you're opening a new version of it, right? So this is a whole new version of the profile. So if you do something to it, you're not messing with the original version, right? You are only messing with the copy that you have downloaded. Also to say, if you download it and mess with it, you better save it, because when you close that, it's gone, right? So make sure that you are saving this as you go. So to start, here we have the intro page, and there's a lot of blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah, but I do want to point out in the introduction here, in this red text, last year and this year is sort of a big warning about COVID and how that has affected everybody's numbers for the past 2 years. So you have to keep 2020 and 2021 in mind with that asterisk, right? That grain of salt, that life was not normal and your numbers were not normal for these 2 years. because there was a worldwide pandemic, right? So everybody is in the same boat. Do not feel bad that your numbers are down, because everybody's numbers are down across the country, all right? You are not special. Everybody is down, right? It's been a crap year for libraries in general in many ways, but we will see some positive points and some success stories as we go along. So the introduction is interesting. Here's some reminders about how to use the statistical profile. Most of what is written here I'm going to cover today, but it's there in writing if you need it. How to use the filter and sorting tool. Here's a handy glossary if there are terms you'd like to look up. Those are all there. So that's the introduction tab, and that's where this opens up. But we actually want to take a look at some other things, the totals here. And I also want to go ahead and maximize, if my computer will let me make that bigger. And I want to go ahead and hide this ribbon so I can make a little more room here. And what else do I want to tell you? I am using the newest version of Excel, which may look a little bit different from the versions that you use at your library or at home. But in most cases, the functionality is the same in recent versions of Excel. So when I do something in my version, it may show up in a slightly different menu or a different place in your Excel software, but it's most likely there. So if you get stuck and you can't find a tool that I show you, just let me know and I'll see if I can navigate you to where that is. All right, so back to where we are here on our Excel spreadsheet. This is the totals tab right here. And this just gives you some really quick statewide numbers for several different fiscal years, always ending here with the most recent year. And you can see how the numbers stack up for the past few years, see if there's some trends in what's been going on. But if you need just a number, if you just need to snip a number and put it in something, this is a great place to start and a great place to look at. So that's our totals tab. Let's now take a look at the charts tab. These are statewide charts. So this is a summary of all of the data from all of the 177 libraries that submitted their information. And it's here. There is a little table of contents here if you want to pop on down quickly to the circulation charts. Those are here. But see, 2021 was a crap year, right? For circulation, right? Circulation is down. Everything was down. Visitation was down. This electronic circulation is pretty much the only chart that has been going up for the past couple of years. So if you were going to grab one, I would say that's the one to grab. Make sure you get that. Let's see, electronic circulation. See, book circ per cap is down. Video circ, audio circ, it's all down, right? It's down, 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 except for these e-resource things going up. So those are right there, statewide charts. Those can be useful for context. And let's go back up to the top to take a look at some of the statewide library use measures. These, like the change in per capita use measures. So if you need to help explain to your funders what's going on and why your numbers are down, you can say, look, you guys, the entire state was down, right? You can see it right here. Our library visits, our program attendance, our circulation, our hours open, it's all been down. So it's useful for that sort of contextual setting. Let's see, then you can scroll through all of these. I'm not going to waste your time scrolling through them because there's a honking lot of charts in there. But they are generally organized in these categories, so you can take a look at those on your own time. We are going to hop over to the library data sheet, which is right down here, the green tab. And it's a little bit different from the municipal data tab. The library data one is specifically about library names. And there may be instances where there are multiple independent libraries in the same municipality. And I see this at my end of the state in Groton, right? So there are 3 libraries physically located within the borders of Groton, that submit an annual report to me, but they are all independent. There's Groton Public, there's Bill Memorial, and there's the Mystic and Noack Library. So when you look at them in the library data tab, they each have their own line. But when you look at them in the municipal data tab, they're all going to be smushed together as Groton. So Groton is going to be rocking on in the municipal data tab. But when you get to the library data tab, you'll see how it's all pulled apart with 3 different libraries. So that's where we are right now. We're in library data, and we're starting to look at the actual numbers for libraries. And I want to caution you that this is a big sheet, okay? There are 196 rows, because there's a row for every library that reports and some of these extra ones. And now there are 369 columns. So it's a really long spreadsheet. So to help you kind of move around, again, I've got a little table of contents here. If you're really interested in programs, you just click on the program link and that'll pop you to the program section. If you're curious about income, you click there and it'll pop you down to the income section. So you don't have to scroll and find all of that stuff. It's there for you. I do also want to point out there is a column for every question in the annual report, and there are additional columns that we added in. So you'll find those in this sort of red font, like column I here, and they tend to be things that are calculated within this spreadsheet. So it's usually a per capita number based on your population or a percentage number. And those are called out in red, so they're easier to spot. But those are also better comparison points, per capita and percentages, versus the raw numbers, right? Because it's not fair to compare your library with maybe another library who might have a collection twice your size and a population twice your size, right? You really want to start looking at the per capita numbers and the percentages. So those are really good comparison points. I also want to remind you that last year I added on the top row here the question number from the annual report. So if you're looking at your annual report form and you say, all right, where is that, right? Like where in these 369 columns is that one question? You can actually come up here and either do a search or just scroll through and look for that question number. So you might be saying in the programs section, I need 2.20A. So let me scroll to programs. Oh, thank God there's 2.20A. That is in fact the number that I included in my annual report. So that's another quick way you can find specific columns or specific questions that you want to dig into. I would also like to point out these rows right here. We've got some statewide averages as well as the median statewide, totals where that's appropriate, and then occasionally the number of libraries that reported on this question. So there are some questions that libraries just don't answer, right? And you need to know that when you're sort of evaluating the data. And to talk about terminology, the average is what we're familiar with, right? You have 10 numbers, you add them all up, you divide by 10, you've got the average. The median, on the other hand, is just the number that's in the middle, right? Whatever number, you've got 15 numbers, you sort of count in from either end, and it's just the one in the middle, whatever that is. And that can be helpful in different cases. The average can sometimes be skewed if there is a library that's reporting an unusually high number. So say, for instance, you're looking at library budgets or library materials budgets. And you can see when you sort the library materials budgets that one library in particular has a wicked high, generous, gorgeous, pie in the sky materials budget. And it's thrillingly like 3 times higher than anybody else's. That's kind of a data outlier, right? If you throw that one in and you average it in with the bunch, you're kind of skewing your average a little bit higher than it really would be. So the median is in a way kind of offsetting that by just finding the number in the middle. And it tends to be a little bit more common. So as you're looking at these charts, And as you're looking at the data, just be cognizant of whether you're looking at the average or the median and what that might mean in your case. Not that one is better or worse, but just be aware of what your numbers mean so that you can explain them to your funders. And I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I have clearly confused you with that one. Okay. I also want to tell you about the sort and filter tool. And I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can see this a little better. Row 13 here, the sort and filter tool. This is where we start getting into the Excel magic, right? These filters and sorting can really make a big difference in drilling down into the data. So for instance, let's just try population here. If I click on that tiny little arrow there to sort it and filter it, I can come up with a lot of choices. I can sort it in order by smallest to largest. That may be useful for me. I could swap it around and sort it from the largest to the smallest in terms of population. But I actually want to use these number filters. And this gives me a lot of choices. I want to pick numbers between a population of 4,000 and 6,000. And just say, okay. And now Excel has automatically given me only the towns with a population between 4,000 and 6,000. And they're still sorted in alphabetical order by town name. But if I wanted to, I could sort these again then by the smallest to the largest or vice versa. But that's a way of really quickly narrowing down this huge table to focus on something that's more helpful to you. And you can actually add on multiple filters. So I'm going to keep this one. So we're only looking at populations between 4,000 and 6,000. And then I want to adjust my angelic rank. No, I don't want to do that. Now I want to just pick my county, right? So I'm just going to say, show me the ones in Middlesex County with that specific population range. And there's only 2 of us, right? Okay, so now I have really narrowed down my data in a very specific way. So that's how you can sort of stack up these filters to make the numbers a little bit easier to work with. And when you're done, you just clear the filter, and we're back to the way we were, back to normal. So that's a handy little thing there. And we do have some controlled vocabularies. So where the data is a number, like here, you can sort it in different ways, and you've got these number filters, right? Makes sense. But where the data is a controlled vocabulary, you can sort it alphabetically, or you can do some different text filters, or you can choose specific pieces within the controlled vocabulary. Those are your options as well. So if you don't want everybody, you can just say, show me Fairfield and New Haven counties, and that's what it'll do. So filters are super handy. I use those all the time. And then I want to also point out these columns for population of service area, the wealth ranking, the county, again, for helping narrow down, and the CLA region. So the CLA region and I think the county were both recent additions to the statistical profile suggested by directors who said, you know, that would be really helpful for me. Can you stick it in there? Yes, absolutely. If you have ideas for making this tool easier to use or more effective to use, please let me know, because in most cases I can make those changes or additions so that the tools are more functional for you. And in this case, the library director said specifically, I want the CLA region because I also want to look at the CLA compensation benchmarks and see how that relates to positions that I am interested in advertising at my library. So handy little tool there. Recently added, brand new this year. All right, so we're going to take a look at some specific examples, some questions that I sometimes get that you might be able to answer for yourself based in the statistical profile here. And sometimes people will say, what are some materials expenditures per capita for libraries? Well, let's take a look. That's probably in the expenditures area. And it's always in here, expenditure. If you're interested in the physical print materials, that's an option. But here's total collection expenditures. And as we scroll a little bit to the right, here are these calculated columns. Remember that red text that I mentioned? So library materials as a percent of the operating expenditures overall, statewide averages and statewide median. And then you're also getting the library materials expenditure per capita. So that's that column here, LQ. And that might be helpful for you. And again, you might want to be looking for comparable libraries. So once you've located that column that you're interested in, you would use the filters to perhaps get to your county, or get to your angelic rank, or get to your population level, something there, so you can see what libraries similar to yours are doing. So that's how you would locate that. Another question, you may have seen this on Contact. There's been a lot of conversation. Who's going fine free, right? Like, how many libraries are fine free? I don't know. I honestly can't tell you. All I can tell you is the libraries that say they charge 0 book fines and 0 DVD fines. And that's a nice number. And I don't ask the question, are you fine free on the annual report? Because that means so many different things to different libraries. And because many libraries are effectively 99% fine free, right? Where they might be charging fines only on things like a museum pass. But for the large majority of items that people are checking out, they're charging no fines. So in lieu of adding a million questions to figure out what you're charging fines on and not charging fines, we ask, what's your typical fine for a book, and what's your typical fine for a DVD? And generally, if libraries answer 0 to both of those, they are generally fine free. So where do you find that? You could do a search. Ooh, let's do a Control F and see what comes up. If I search for fine, sweet. Look at that. It pulled me right here to fine information, which is columns LH and LI, which would have taken me a long time to scroll through and find. So I'm glad I did my Control F to look for FINE. And you can see right here the typical book fine, typical DVD fine. And what I want to do is just set both of these to 0. Okay. We're going to, we're just going to say, show me the ones that say 0. And we have a nice long list here. Let's put everybody in alphabetical order again. And if I scroll down, we can sort of count all of these. And I end up with 64 libraries right now that are charging 0 book and DVD fines. So that's a great number. There is actually a brand new chart in the chart section way down at the end that is starting to track that number over time. So keep an eye on that one. It's really great how it's changing. It actually doubled since last year. And I think it's going to be higher again when we get to fiscal year 2022. So I'm really excited about that to see how that changes. But that's how you would find the libraries near you, or comparable libraries that are charging $0 for their book and DVD fines. It's a really, really helpful way to look at it. All right, I'm going to go to my home tab here, and I'm going to just clear all of my filters so that I'm clearing everything at once and starting with a sheet. And while we are here, I also want to show you salaries, because that is a lot of the questions that I get to. So salaries are in the personnel section. You might remember that from your annual report. And if we scroll a little bit further, you can start to see salary ranges here, right? We've got director, assistant, children's, reference. So say speculatively, you are in the wonderful position of either being able to hire an entirely new position, a new children's librarian, or you're adding a position for children's librarian, or you are trying to advocate for perhaps a better salary for your children's librarian. Let's just use them as an example, because who doesn't love a children's librarian, right? They're easy to advocate for. So that's this column here, IZ. And let's say we only want to get the full-time children's librarians. All right, we don't want to start comparing with part-time ones because I actually want a full-time one. So I'm going to look at the hours per week right here, and I'm going to specifically select 35 hours a week or more because in my town, that's what we consider to be full-time. And you actually do kind of have to go in and click all of these because they're not actually numbers. They're sort of open-ended text responses. Here we go. But now we have the children's librarians who work 35 hours per week or more, and there's still quite a few of them. So maybe now I want to use my population column to narrow this down a little bit. I want to compare with other municipalities that have a population between, say, 40,000 and 70,000. One more zero. All right, so now I'm looking at some of the bigger towns and cities that have a full-time children's librarian because that may be, in a sense, who I'm competing with in order to get a good children's librarian. And then what else? I want to sort. I want to come back here and sort. Ooh, see, now that's a change I want to make, right? So next time when I do this, I want to make sure that angelic shows up permanently as you're going through. I'm thinking aloud to myself. So either I want to sort by angelic rank, or maybe I want to search by county, because again, that's who I'm going to be competing with. Say I'm in Fairfield County. So these are the libraries in Fairfield County who have reported in the annual report that they have a children's librarian who works full-time and their population is more than 40,000 people. So then when I scroll back down to my personnel section and take a look at the children's librarian, here she is. I can see some of the salary ranges for those positions. So that gives me a sense of at least where I want to start targeting my starting salary or targeting my salary ranges to try and get somebody who is going to want to stay at my library for the long term. So that's how you use the data to really dig into things like the salary or things like personnel or other issues. So there's a ton of ways you can use this data. And as a reminder, what we're looking at now is just the raw data. It's just statewide information for 1 year, okay? Fiscal year 2021, 1 year's worth of stuff in this spreadsheet. Great information, really handy. So I'm gonna hop out of here and we're gonna go to a different spreadsheet. Nope, I don't wanna save it. Let's go back to our LibGuides. Remember here, this is where we clicked and we downloaded our statistical profile. I want to scroll up a little bit. This tab right here, profiles from past years. So if you wanted that same intense level of data, right? That raw data for all libraries for 1 year, you're going to find it here, profiles from past years. You're going to find the statistical profile for each year, going back to, I think, 2010 here. And if you need something earlier than that, just let me know and I probably have it and I can dig it out for you. But incredible data here. You could spend days just digging through those and telling yourself different stories. And it's there if you need it in the past years. Let's scroll down a little bit here because I also want to show you this one in long-term data and trends. There's these statistics for the past 26 years. Wow. So these are selected numbers for those 26 years. I could never smush everybody's data in all questions for 26 years into one spreadsheet because it would break my computer. So what you're going to see instead are very specific selected columns. Let's open that up and just take a look at it. I think maybe there's only 28 columns in this one, right? So quite a difference from the statistical profile that we were looking at. Once it opens up, you enable editing. And again, remember, this is your copy of the spreadsheet. What you do to it is totally up to you. You're not going to mess with anybody else's copy. You can do whatever you want. So now you can see here, let me blow it up for you again, just a little bit more. Data starting in 1996, and it comes down to 2021. It's all in chronological order. You don't want all of that. What you really want is you want to use your filter tool, right? So let's just say, let's look at Beacon Falls here. And we've got one line for each of the past years for specifically for Beacon Falls. Obviously, their county hasn't changed, but the population has changed a little bit. The number of library visits has changed. So you can see specifically for your library, some of those key numbers for the past 26 years. And you can actually use these to sort of chart your own trends if you wanted to do that. It's really interesting to see how these numbers develop. And maybe you want to start highlighting the town tax appropriation per capita. Maybe you want to look at your operating income per capita. Maybe there are some numbers in here that you really want to pull out in a report or in your explanations to your funders, and they are here, right here for you, however you want to do it. But this filter tool, again, is really the way to do it. And I suspect you will most often be filtering by a specific library. That's usually the easiest way to do it. So as we close out of that, whoops, again, remember that was called the Public Library Statistics from 96 to 2021. And that's in your long-term data and trends. And that's on your statistical profile page of the LibGuide, right? Remember how I said it was detailed and rich and all of the information you could possibly need? It is all here. There's a lot of numbers. While we're here, I also want to point out the Statistical Trends document. I just updated this last week. This is a really interesting dive into this year's numbers and kind of looking at how they compare to the past 20 years or so and what's been going on in terms of library use statewide over the past few decades. So I encourage you to take a little time to open that and look at it and read it and just cogitate and see what it means for your library and for the state of libraries in Connecticut. And the number that really gets to me, the chart that gets to me, I don't know if I put it in here, but it's a steadily decreasing chart of library card holders in the state of Connecticut. And that really brings me down. We used to have 58.6% of the population with library cards in 2008. And we're now down to 36.7% of our population with library cards, right? So we have lost 20% of our population in terms of library card holders. So that's a chart I really want everybody to work on reversing in future years. I'd like to see that come back up. But enough about trends. I also want to show you while we're here the chart and report creators. So I'm going to scroll back up. I am overwhelming you with information. I can tell because the chat is silent and you're like, holy crap, Maria, you have just killed my brain and I can't think anymore. But I do want you to take a look at the chart and report creators because this is the real gold for your library reports, okay? Chart and report creators. And again, there are several options here. You can have your library here for 1 year, comparing your library with others in either a specific population range or 5 libraries that you pick, right? You can pick whichever 5 libraries you want, up to 5. Maybe they're your neighbors, maybe they are similar, comparable municipalities around the state that you really want to compare with and maybe aspire. Those are great. You can pick whatever you want to compare with. And these are really helpful, particularly if you're trying to get your budget up. So we'll take a look at that. But I also want to mention here the chart and report creator trends over time. Again, this is a great way to see your library specifically and some charts over time. So we will take a look at that too. But first, let's dive into 1 year, fiscal year 2021, and we'll open that up. It's fun. really. I say that and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's Excel. How can it be fun? But it's super easy. My predecessor, Tom Newman, Julie, I have to give Tom Newman the credit. It is all his brilliance. In fact, to put these together, he gave me a really great head start on all of this. He put them together in this gorgeous, amazing, brilliant way. And all you have to do is click, right? Madhu, your question, possibly you could compare 4 libraries and also see the state average. Right now, a quirk of the formulas is that you have to actually pick all 5 libraries in order to get a state average. And that's, I have not figured out how to fix that formula so that it will give you the average of fewer than 5 libraries. I'm going to have to think on that one for next year, or maybe an update. But let's just say, I want to show you Meriden because it's an interesting comparison. Let's pick Meriden. Now, and you see how as soon as I picked a library, this chart over here filled in. And I can see my library here in blue, but I can see other similar libraries around me based on population and based on angelic rank. So if I were doing a specific comparison, I might want to find libraries that were similar in population as West Haven is and close to me in terms of angelic rank. So Meriden and West Haven, although they are nowhere near each other, are oddly comparable in terms of the number of people and their wealth rankings. So those would be interesting comparisons across the state. So that's how you can use this chart on the right. But now there are instructions on here, right? Choose your library, find your library, your librarians. I'm going to trust that you can read stuff. These 2 boxes here, you can specifically type in populations if you want to. And if you look underneath here, you'll see what the default population groups are. It's little ones under 5,000, then we go 5 to 10,000, 10 to 17,000, 17 to 25,000, 25 to 50, and then upwards of 50,000. So if you look at the default population group and you say, I'm really on one end of that, it's really not fair to compare me with places that might be twice my size. I'd really rather compare with something where I'm in the middle. You can do that, right? So let's see, Meriden is 60,000. So maybe they would want to compare with a population between 40 and 80,000. You could do that. You can type those numbers in there. That's how that happens. But let's just take a look at the general charts. So if I don't type in any other populations, and if I just say, yeah, give me the default, which is going to be other towns over 50,000, let's take a look. And while we're here, here's some content. So if you want to pop down to specific sections, you can do that. But let's see what it looks like. So here, every chart will be sort of laid out the same, where you're going to see your library here first, then you're going to see the average of the population group, and then you will see the average statewide. So here's library visits, and they all have this cute little title at the top, usually with a reminder of what fiscal year we're in, so that when you copy and paste these into your Word documents, it's really easy, and the information is already there for you. But again, here, program attendance and views, you can see here's my library, here's the average of our population group and the statewide average. Now, every library's charts are going to be different because your numbers are different from everybody else. So I don't know what your stories are, right? You really have to pop in and use these charts and look at them and scroll through all of them and see which ones jump out to you as really being useful to helping you tell a story, and helping you really understand what's going on in your library. How busy is your library? Man, look at that. Meriden is really busy, busier, twice as busy almost as the statewide average in terms of circulation per service hour. That's wicked cool. So just scroll through and see how that works. That's how the charts weigh. Oh, Kathleen, the quickest way to copy and paste these charts. Why, thank you for setting me up for success. I really appreciate that question. The quickest way. you click on it. You see how when I clicked on it, it got these cute little things around it and it's highlighted. When I click out of it, that goes away. Click on it, right? So now it's highlighted. You right click. Oh, no, don't give me that. Right click, copy. And I'm going to paste it into a Word doc. So I'm going to do again a right click here, which gives me more paste options. And you're going to pick the one on the right, the far right, that pastes it as a picture. Because if you paste it as other things, like it comes with the table and it comes with the data and it gets messy. So what you want to do again is you want to right click, paste as a picture. And that brings it over just the way it was on the other Word, on the Excel spreadsheet. And again, you can resize it here. You can start typing into things. And if you play in Word with right here, the layout options with text wrapping, you can have a little fun just in terms of where these things sit in relation to the text in your Word document. So that's the easiest way to do it, right? So over here, right click, copy, and then your Word doc and paste. It's fabulous stuff. Super easy. You can paste it into PowerPoint. You can paste it into basically any Microsoft product, and that will work. Let me see. That was exactly the right place, Kathleen. You are like reading my script here. That was exactly what I was going to show you. So let's go back to our input page back here. You got a sense of what the charts were. We're getting a little close on time, so I don't want to get too detailed in here. But let's say I want to really compare my library, Meriden, with 5 others, and I'm going to pick my sort of neighboring ones, which I had to look up because I am not good at Connecticut geography. And it is a little tricky to find these in the scroll here because the scroll doesn't work very well. So I appreciate you putting up with me as I do this. Oops, come back, Wallingford. And in order to get the statewide average, as I mentioned, I do currently have to pick 5 libraries, all 5 libraries. And you can see here, this is really not a fair comparison, right? Because Wallingford and Middlefield, while perhaps neighboring and contiguous, are not similar at all in terms of budget or population or any of that kind of stuff. But I'm really looking at the libraries around me that I might potentially be pulling patrons from. So that's why geographically, I would want to take a look at them. And I'm just going to click over to my comparison charts. So now here again, you can see these charts in the 5 library comparison, again, are all going to be arranged in the same way, where you have your library first, and then in the order that you entered them, the next 5 libraries, and your average for all 5. So it would be your library and then kind of versus the average is a way to look at it. And program attendance, reference questions. Again, a ton of different charts in here. It's always interesting to take a look at the income and expenses charts just to see how your library compares. These again are helpful ones to help you kind of bump up your what you're asking for, right? So I think if we looked at the use charts, Meriden would be kind of cranking out the work, but they're not getting the money that all of their neighboring libraries are getting. If I were in Meriden, I would say, hey, you guys, I'm going to need a little more money in order to offer a comparable level of service to what my neighbors are doing. So that's a helpful way to use these, and grab charts from above and from other places just to show how wonderful your library is and how successful you are and all of the fabulous things that you're doing to help add to your budget presentation. So again, every library's got a different story. You're going to have to dig into these charts and really look at them for yourself, for your library, and see what jumps out at you. Let me see, there's stuff I want to show you. You can see down here at the bottom, there's a honking lot of charts in here, right? There's a lot of tabs. You can take a look. You can just click around on these, right? And find your report. This is helpful because it's just numbers in a table. There's no bar charts, there's no line charts, there's nothing. So if your funders respond better to something like this, it's here for you, right? So again, I've got my library. I've got right here a comparison with my population group, with my angelic wealth ranking group, and statewide. I've got a report, where is it? Might be report. These are the municipal comparisons and comparison charts. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. Municipal comparison charts, evaluation charts. These are fun too. Let's see, here's my library. Here's the median of my similar population, similar wealth, median statewide. So take a look at the evaluation charts as well, always handy. So these ones that end in an M, the charts M, report M, comparison charts M, those are specifically municipal groupings. So remember when I talked earlier about Groton has 3 libraries, 3 independent libraries. If you were compare them, if you were doing the municipality comparisons, they would all be grouped together in Groton. But if you're looking at the individual charts and comparison charts, there they can do their own comparisons individually. So that's the difference, if I have not blown you away there. All right, I want to close out this one because I want to make sure that we have time to look at, come back, that we have time to look at this trends over time. So again, chart and report creator trends over time. And this will be specifically your library. There won't be any comparisons really specifically. I think we got some population and wealth comparisons and statewide comparisons, but you don't get to pick what you're comparing with. Let's say here we're gonna pick, who did I wanna do today? Let's do Hartford. Again, not really a fair comparison because Hartford is the big brother in the room. But charts specifically for one library, looking at medians, and you can see what one library's numbers are doing on the left. There is some contextual information here in the charts on the right, showing your library, a median from similar wealth towns, a median from similar population, and then the statewide. So that's another great way of putting the context behind it. And again, advocating for more funding for your library. Those last 2 years are a killer, man. Everybody's 2020 and 21 is rough. But again, you can see here on the left, one library's information, and on the right, a little bit of comparison with similar groupings. So those are some charts, and you'll have to scroll through. These charts, you can kind of see at the bottom, are showing you trends only since 2010. If you wanted to go way back in time before some of your coworkers were even born, you would check on the trend charts 1996 here and scroll down, and you would see your library's trend for the past 26 years. Really interesting stuff. It fascinates me every time I do this, right? Just to see what's going on in different libraries and different places. Sometimes it's like you can tell when there was a new director who came on board because all of the counts change, right? Like it's somebody pushed the reset button and everything turned into something a little bit more standardized and specific. So that's Hartford's charts there. And if you wanted to see your data table, again, here is just a strict number listing of some key areas here over the past 26 years. And as you scroll down, there's just more key listings here. If you were interested in total circ over the years, you could see that. Circulation per capita is available, programs and recordings, all of that good stuff. Really, really cool stuff. So you're all gonna have to go home and play with this, or go back to the library and play with this and see how it works. I also want to show you while we're here, and it doesn't matter which chart we use, really, we can pick any chart, just how you would change the numbers. So when I showed you over here, the copy and the paste this picture, when you paste it, it's going to have exactly the same look as it did in the chart, right? It's going to have the same colors. It's going to have the same font. Because it's a picture, you can't change that. But where you can change it is back here in the Excel file. So obviously you can change any of the fonts you want to, but what if you wanted to change the color? You would click, you kind of click on here. I need my toolbar back. Come back. Let's see. And when I have clicked on a chart, again, you see how it's selected, right? The little markers are here on the edges. Now all of a sudden my chart design and my format menus are available here. So I think I want format, and I want to format my chart area selection. Oops. And actually what I want to format is the series. And instead of this red color, I'm going to make it green, because green makes me happier. Right? Did it pick green? Yep. So now it picked green. Oh, and then I got to pick those little data points, and I have to turn those green too. It's the fill button. Let's see. The line and the marker. I have to change green. Yep. Did it pick green? Yep. All right. I'm going to have to play with that. But that's how you would change, in theory, the colors here. You can obviously change your fonts. You can resize these within Excel. You can fiddle with things the way you normally would in Excel, and then copy and paste it into your Word document or your PowerPoint presentation. But the editing usually happens in Excel. And again, remember, it's your document. You can save it however you want, because you're not messing up anybody else, right? Do what you want to it. And if you hate it, you just undo it, right? Like, I don't like the way I made that small. I don't like the colors I picked. I'm just going to undo everything and go back to the original state. And here we are. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed a question here. How is collection turnover calculated? That is circulation, I think, divided by total collection. And let's go back to the statistical profile, because that's in the introduction. And we'll look at the glossary and find turnover. I think it's in the glossary. I will add it to the glossary, but it is circulation divided by collection size, I believe. Chris, I'll have to confirm that with you. And that's basically a measure of how often your collection is being used. And in general, the higher the turnover rate, the better. Okay. I'm writing that down right now, so I remember to do that. Oh, thank you, Caroline. Print circ divided by print collection. You rock. Thank you. A thing I should know, right? Good. I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your answers. I think I have shown you most of what I want. No, I want to show you the flyers. That's what I want to show you. We have 3 different choices now for advocacy flyers. There's this really cool Canva template here that Ashley put together. We also have these kind of infographic-y looking things right here. And then there's sort of the traditional fact flyer. All of these use the data that your library has sent me this year, so those are available to you if you want them. And I also want to show you right up here in this upper left box where we talk about the webinars, right here where it says register. This is today's webinar right now. This is what we're doing right now. And once I get the recording up on YouTube, I'm going to change this register link to recording. So that's where you'll be able to find a link to the recording for today. I'm also going to send you a reminder of this at 4 o'clock today, so you will have it available to you. And you can just pop over here and click on this recording link to find the questions that you asked that hopefully I answered. And I would also like to remind you about the evaluation, which you're going to be receiving at 4 o'clock today as well, if you wouldn't mind filling that in. And give me some ideas for how I can make this webinar more effective for you, or if you have ideas for all of the charts and spreadsheets that we looked at, let me know, because I can tweak a lot of this stuff based on your feedback. All of that is really helpful for me. Okay, and people actually learn something. Yes, oh my God, you guys are awesome. I love it when you learn things. Okay, so I think I have told you everything that was on my script today. We're a minute over. I really appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate your time and your attention today. And then the gist is that I am here if you need me, right? There's my contact info. So please be in touch if you have questions as you go along and you use this information. I can try and help you find things if you're not finding them. But basically, I'm here for you. So give me a call, give me an email, whatever works for you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you. We'll see you again sometime soon. Bye-bye.